gotta say, I'm very attracted to many elements of this watch. The design language, the layout, the fact that it's got small subdials, which is very reminiscent of old school, but its overall appeal and look is something different and unique, and the attention to detail has actually been quite impressive. Now, it's not all roses, because I've also questioned some of the features that have been left out in this design, some things that have been omitted. And throughout the week experiencing this watch on the wrist, it's been good, but it's also left me wanting just that little bit more. Maybe it's me, I'm not sure, but there's a real big positive on this watch because there's a hidden Easter egg. And in this review, I actually stumbled onto this accidentally by pure observation. And I think many Tudor Black Bay 58 fans are going to be quite intrigued with this finding. So without further ado, let's check this thing out. Now, the watch in question is called a Beaufort Pulsatimer and specifically designed as a pulsometer. As you can see, there's a scale. You can check someone's heart rate based on 30 pulsations. So the watch has got a specific function with that chronograph, but the details are also really nice. Now, although I've enjoyed the watch throughout the week, it has actually left me wanting in a few areas, and I wish certain elements could have been tweaked. Maybe the watch can offer some room for improvement, so I'm going to share that with you guys because I think it's important that when we look at a watch objectively, we can try to share the things that have spoken to us, but also the things that really could have offered maybe that slight room for improvement. Now, you saw the pop-up. Beaufort has sponsored this video, so I will of course leave a link in the description section. If this watch interests you, feel free to click the link and check them out. And diving straight into the specs of the watch, I measure a case diameter of 39mm and a case height of 13.7. That lug to lug is 47.2 and a lug width of 20. Now, the crown is a 5.8mm signed push pull crown. The watch offers 50 meters of water resistance, and the total weight on this bracelet, sized to my 18cm wrist, I measure exactly 147 grams. That beads of rice bracelet has been surprisingly beautiful. In fact, it's one of the heroes of the entire watch. It is so comfortable and really well made. Absolutely love this. I think the size of the links and the machining here is on a very good level. Now, I did say that there's an Easter egg here in this review, and that's this bracelet. Because this bracelet, as it stands, it fits on the Tudor Black Bay 58. And to me, it looks pretty schmick. I especially like the way that the end link sits lower. It really reminds me of how vintage watches were assembled. And the Black Bay 58 looking like a vintage Submariner, I think it works. It's like an aftermarket bracelet you would have found back in the 70s, and you would have slapped it on and away you go. Now, that said, the oyster style bracelet is a polar opposite. For me, I dislike its functionality, only because the links get stuck and lock in place, so you need to dislodge them with a wiggle. If you have a look, you see what just happened. So you have to dislodge, there you go. It happens quite a bit, quite easily. That's because the tolerances are too tight, and I think this is a niggle that needs to be addressed. Now, is it a deal breaker? Well, not really, because once it's on the wrist with this bracelet, it's fine. But it's just a bit of a hassle having to manipulate this before you put it on the wrist. And there's also a leather strap that came in the parcel for me to have a look at, and I've tried it on the watch. Nice, decent look, a little bit rubbery in its feel, but for me that beads of rice bracelet is the real hero. It is phenomenal. It's the bee's knees. Now, moving away from that, the watch offers a double dome box sapphire. I think throughout the week it's been doing a very good job. The AR seems to be good and clean. It adds some nice character to that watch. But bear in mind, it also does add to the height. And turning the watch over, you can see there's a solid case back. It says assembled in New Zealand. On this particular one, it says XXX out of 100. So there's only going to be 100 watches of each colorway. As you can see on their website, there's different layouts to choose from. For me, this salmon dial really caught my attention. And the fact that it's got a very industrial yet classy look about it, I wanted to get hands on with it. Now, behind that case back, the movement in this watch is a Sellita SW510M. It's a manual wind Swiss movement, around 63 hours of power reserve, hacking, hand winding, and although this is a pre-production version, it's been running rock solid all week. Now, getting close and personal to that dial, it's got quite a bit of nice detail here. It's got very good depth. I especially like the fact that the subdials are small. It reminds me of the original hand hearts, the ones Steve McQueen used to wear. They're pushed out to the extremities of that dial, and it just gives that nice vintage feel. albeit at the cost of legibility, of course, being small. And speaking of legibility, the first thing you're going to notice in that dial, there's no minute markers. And this was done on purpose. You see, in order to follow a dressy style theme, they omitted the minute markers and focused more on functionality with that pulsometer scale, but still offering a dressy style look. And according to the owner, adding in the minute markers heavily disrupted the dial's proportions and overall aesthetic. It basically made it an overall busy dial. So in that regard, I get it, but it just would have been really nice to have those here, maybe in a subtle way, for accurate time setting. Now moving on to the lume of the watch offers C1 Superluminova. It's only on the handset and the counterbalance on that second hand. It's quite clean and nicely applied, and without the actual indices on the dial being illuminated, you sort of guess what time it is. And as I mentioned, it is more geared towards a dressy style piece, so in that regard you can sort of forgive it. Now lastly, before I get onto any gripes or room for improvement, what's the price? Well, the pre-order price comes in at $1,300. That's around 2,000 Australian dollars. Also, as I mentioned, the watches are limited to only 100 pieces of each dial variant, so bear that in mind. And on that note, what are the gripes or the room for improvement of this watch? Well, for me, as I mentioned, there are no minute markers, and it does push the watch more towards a dressy style watch, which is great, but pushing a watch more towards a dressy style watch a little bit thinner would have been nice too, so that it can easily slide under a cuff. Another gripe was that oyster style bracelet. Again, I didn't pursue this on the wrist much. I chucked it on and I didn't like the fact that it locks in place and you have to untangle it. The outer sections of the links have tolerances that are just too tight, and as such, I think this definitely needs room for improvement. Another pill that I think many of you will find hard to swallow is the price. It's not inexpensive by any means. And probably the last gripe I'd have to talk about is legibility. The text size on the pulsation scale is pretty small, so older eyes will struggle to see it. As with those subdials, they are small, they look visually beautiful. I love the design element, but yeah, reading them is also a bit of an issue. So putting all that aside, guys, what did I like about this watch? Well, here's a watch that's trying something different. To me, it looks like a very functional pulsometer, and it's tool specific in that regard, but it also does double as a time-telling device. In other words, as a wristwatch, but it's a dressy one. You're not going to be drawn to this watch because you want to set the time super accurately. The fact that it doesn't have minute markers won't allow you to do that, but it does look great on the wrist. Details have been very good, the finishing is good, the movement has also been very pleasurable for a manual wind with 63 hours of power reserve. But at the end of the day, guys, with this watch, I always come back to that beads of rice bracelet. It is so nice. I seriously can't give this bracelet enough praise. So I hope you enjoyed that, guys. My take on this Beaufort Pulsatimer. It's not an inexpensive watch, it's a different watch. It looks great, it feels good. It's great that they've got different variants, which offers the variety we look for. So at the end of the day, I'm glad I got this on the channel. As a micro brand, I think they're really not scared to offer something more of a niche product, and quite a good looking one at that. So hit me up in the comments, guys. Let me know what you think of this watch. Thanks for watching. Be well. Enjoy that watch that's on your wrist right now. Continue to enjoy the journey, and we'll see you in the next one.